like you know how this goes. Fumble a bag, now I will not fumble a bag. Act like you know how this goes.
It's always easy to sit in the stands and say you could do it better. I mean, the only thing is, like, the Delaware Hayes game, they had 3 fouls to give. They probably should have used them.
That was a game, though.
That was tough heavy breaks.
There should have been a couple fouls involved there, too. They know the major snap what's involved. Mace will never attack the basketball.
Exactly. I know. You hear the people behind them. Weren't
A lot of
they get shot. Yeah, they shot their best game. I do feel a little more now. But it's just they were Gator.
they're hard to officiate. Both ends of the floor.
That championship Shelby.
Yeah.
I believe so.
Yep, I'm good.
You've never seen. She's ready.
Big bands feeling generous. Got a big house, that's my preference. Sitting pretty at the top, Mount Everest. Yeah, bossy, dripping sauce. Cast spells like I'm Severus. Puffing on the best asparagus. Take my
Why, hello there, all you fine-looking sports fans, and welcome inside of OH.Report World Headquarters. I'm your host, Brian Skoronsky, and this is Season 3, Episode 18 of the OH.Report video podcast. I just spent the last 3 days down in Dayton along with my OH.Report crew, and I first want to start tonight's episode for giving a big round of applause to Miss Madeline Zazzuto for hanging out with us on the sideline, all the games, making it happen, even worked on her birthday to bring you the live and free coverage that you so deserve, as did the gentleman that I'm about to introduce over to my left. Travis Big League Berardi was with me at UD Arena from start to finish.
Yeah.
A lot of long days, but man, was there some great basketball to be had.
Actually, I spent 6 of the last 11 days in Dayton with the girls, but
Mama.
boys tournament was some phenomenal basketball. Spent my birthday the first day of those semifinals, and 3 of those 4 games were really, really good basketball games. And also just to say, woke up this morning, put out tweets like, hey, It's a great basketball season. I can't wait to take a couple days off until baseball and soft, and then I looked at all the Twitter pages. We get no breaks because happy opening day for baseball and softball. Beautiful weather out there. Just saw Upper Sandusky boys beat Kenton.
Big dub.
Baseball. Clear Fork's opening up their new turf field. Joe Staub throwing out the first pitch against Cardington. That happened earlier.
Legend.
So, yeah, we're right into baseball and softball season. There's no sleep, no breaks for us here at the OH Report. But we'll talk about that later. Today, it's about wrapping up the basketball season. Some great basketball games. I'm still bummed out about the Shelby Whippets. They were just so, as Joe said, they were this close to pulling off the victory. But Maysville, give them credit, too. They shot lights out in that game. And I think they used all their luck in that game because against Alter, they just didn't have enough against them. We saw Mr. Basketball, Colin White, put on a show, nearly hit that really, really tough layup to give them the victory to go to their first state championship game. But, man, how about – you got to feel for him. 4 times in the Final Four, 4 times they just could not get it done despite great performances. Some other great basketball, too.
Are you just going to talk about all the games?
Tom Izzo in the house. Yeah.
Happened?
Yeah.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah.
I guess I don't want to cut you off.
No? Well, you just did.
I thought we were going to do a thing here and then kind of have
Well, you cut me off,
chat.
so just get back. I mean, we got Joe Baylog in the house, too, so just go introduce him.
Well,
Yeah.
I was going to set that up, too, so Travis just taking all the words that we could possibly use here to try to set it up. But I did want to say that Joe Baylog also in attendance.
Oh, yeah.
12 games
Yeah.
down in Dayton. And there he is. Can we give
Giving
it up?
rewards, too, yeah.
Not only is this man a Hall of Fame coach and on the cusp of becoming a Hall of Fame coach, but also right there trying to get a record deal. I know that you've been in contact with Taylor Swift's people in Gemma, Montana. It's not just a joke, Joe. I can tell when I look into your eyes.
I've been working on it.
We got to work on the pitch and maybe a little bit of the tone, but that could be something coming soon.
Well, I got to get some dance moves too. So
For sure.
That's the other part I got to work on.
Yeah, don't leave anything on the table. You know what I mean? Like we got to pull out all the stops. But yeah, unbelievable 3 days of action down in Dayton, and as Travis said, the Shelby Whippets were just this effing close to getting to their first ever state championship game after winning the first ever regional title for the team. But I think obviously they're going to go down in history, Joe, as not just the best team in Shelby history, but probably one of the greats that we've ever had in the history of Richland County when you look at the 25 wins, undefeated MOAC championship, and all the different collection of talent that they had, led by Alex Broscutter, who I'm thinking might be D2 Player of the Year when the vote comes out.
I would say he has a great chance to be D2 Player of the Year. Yeah, tremendous run. I mean, and also if you take a look at that run, they probably I would say of all the teams that got to Dayton, they may have played in some of the best atmospheres in the whole tournament.
Baby.
I mean, the District of Ontario, those two, I mean, both of those nights were unbelievably packed. Bowling Green, I was unfortunate I couldn't be there, but great fan support when they got there. And then probably, I think they had the largest crowd of the weekend.
They did. That's my first note here. Almost 7,000 people, and that was the most of any of the 12 games.
Yep. So, it's, I mean, anytime you lose, you're disappointed. But I'm sure, kind of maybe today and as you get through this week, they're going to really look back and go, wow, this was a lot of fun. And that's what makes high school basketball special. It's, a 4-week period that when you have something like this, it's brings a community together, brings your school together, and then it's memories that you're going to have 50 years from now that they're always going to remember this.
Yeah, the bond that these kids have with the community, I think you mentioned that, and just how great it was this entire last week. Everyone showing out from the Shelby community, and really Richland County seemed to support this team, jump on the bandwagon. And this was one of the great high school basketball games I've had the privilege of being courtside for. Travis, we were talking about it. No team in this game ever led by more than 5 points.
Yeah.
The longest run for either team, 6 points.
Yep.
By Shelby. So this was, you want to talk about a seesaw battle, all the lead changes? This had everything that you would desire in a Final Four matchup.
15 ties, 10 lead changes. A heroic comeback there by Shelby after a really tough. They turned the ball over 8 times in the second half compared to none from Maysville, and that was the difference in this one. But that 5-point swing, scored a layup, got the steal off the inbounds pass and won. 5-point swing, gave them the big lead, but Shelby just would not quit. They hit a couple threes. Bruscotter hit one. Casey Lance from the side banks it off the glass and in, and then they had a chance to tie, but missed free throw at the first missed free throw by Bryson Baker, and then he tried to miss the second one. Some people say that on the rebound that Maysville was out of bounds. I don't know. Didn't get a chance to see the replay. It was on our other end, but what a phenomenal game and what an effort. Alex Bruscotter too, tying the Division II semifinal record with Torrey Patton from Trotwood Madison, 34 points. He put up 8 rebounds as well, 1 assist. Just one of the best single game performances in Division II history, Brian.
Yeah, Joe, you've seen a lot of basketball. The efficiency the Bruscotter played with, and not only that, the shot-making ability and to deliver in the big-time, crunch-time moments. Have you seen too many games that were quite like what AB put on?
No, I mean, his performance outstanding me was 13 of 16 from the field.
Crazy.
Had 4 3-pointers, 8 rebounds. He stepped up big time. I mean, he showed. I mean, the number of people that came up said, man, like coaches that really hadn't seen him play were like, I didn't think he was that good, and he really proved why he's, was a candidate for Mr. Basketball in the state of Ohio, and as we kind of feel that probably here by the end of the week he would likely be Division II Player of the Year. If not, he's got to be right there in the selection process. I mean, just an amazing performance, but. It's neat to see a kid that I think in junior high the story was that he just kind of decided he wanted to really be a basketball player and put the time and effort into it. And I think the most impressive thing is my last year he was a freshman when I was coaching, and I think every year he's just taken a step to get better as a player. So it will be interesting to really kind of see how he progresses once he gets to Wright State, because you look at him, he's still, I guess as a coach, you still say he has kind of a young body, that he's not really filled out, and it'll be interesting to see probably even at this time next year, because, I think he told me that 2 or 3 days after he graduates, he's going to Wright State, and, I wouldn't be surprised if he puts on another 15, 20 pounds and looks to be kind of thick.
Yeah,
by this time next year.
He has the work ethic. Yeah, he has the work ethic to where we've seen some high school players that go on to Division II or Division I sports. We see them leave like, kind of skinny, not much muscle, and then when they come back a couple months later, you're like, whoa, where did this come from? And I think with his work ethic, the way he plays the game and things like that, he wants to succeed, and I have a feeling he's going to be a changed boy. Well, we'll say a changed man when we see him in a couple months come back from Wright State before the basketball season. But hats off to him. Great kid, a great performer, and like I said, one of the best all-around performances in the state tournament.
I think he's on a jet right now heading over to Italy with Coach Collins, actually. So
well, I think actually he might be on the jet by himself, because somebody told me somebody told me that the other members of the team had left like on Saturday or something, and then he was jumping on a plane today.
Yeah, he was a little busy on Saturday.
So, but yeah, great. That's going to be a great experience for him. But you give kudos to, that entire team. I mean, that group of seniors. Casey Lance, Isaiah Ramsey. But then even there's 8 seniors, and so some of those seniors didn't really play much, and many times that can be a problem on a team because seniors many times expect to play, but. As we heard when we did the interview, everybody kind of understood their role, and they all bought in. And when you're part of a team like that, you're not just a team now. You're kind of a team for lifetime, and that's what people are going to remember. Is they're going to remember, even the 15th guy on that team. They're going to remember that he was part of that team, and many times that as a coach, that's difficult for. A coach to get players to understand that the importance that you have to sacrifice a lot of individual things for those team accomplishments. But if you take a look, the coverage they had the past 2 weeks, I mean, mention one of, Richland Source with Richard Source with Kurt Conrad, Jake Firth, the News Journal. Some of the articles they wrote featured players that would have never gotten featured if they wouldn't have made this run. It was really neat to find out the background of those players as Shelby made this run.
Special team, special community, and if it wasn't for a guy with 2 first names, Alex Bob, and a dude named Gator, his birth name, they probably would be contending for a state championship.
Yeah.
So you do also have to give props to the opposing team, and they've been making big shots all tournament. I watched some of the videos. Shout out Storied Rivals for some of the cool replays that they had of their previous games. But I don't know that they were making this difficult of shots. So sometimes it just all comes together, and it just felt like Gator, especially 16 of his 18 points in the first half, he was knocking down contested threes left and right and deep ones as well. And then Alex Bob, who is the career leading scorer in the history of Maysville, I mean, quarter closer, falling out of bounds, fall away jumpers. Not that they're not capable, but they were making these shots on this particular night, and that's the beauty of March Madness, Joe. You just got to get it right one time, because if Shelby tips it off with them again and again and again, the Whippets aren't losing too many more of these matchups.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing that Maysville, well, and I mean Shelby too, but Maysville, they're just relentless. I mean, they were relentless in the semifinal, and they were relentless in the final game, just with how they play, the aggressiveness they played with defensively. And talking to another coach down there, said it kind of reminded you of River Valley offensively, that they just, they had that flow to them, and kind of everybody had that green light to shoot it. But the key thing with them is they knew who should shoot it, and they got the ball to those guys that could shoot it.
And that's tough too, because River Valley was 3 points from knocking off Bishop Hartley.
Yep.
We were close
Yep.
to possibly having River Valley Shelby in a state semifinal.
Wow.
How that would have been
Round 3.
that would have been phenomenal basketball, and that would have been probably the same amount of people there from River Valley. But that's another thing. You had 2 public small town high schools playing there, and it brought out 7,500 people compared to a couple. You have the Harvest Preps, the Richmond Heights. Some of those teams where, the fan base isn't as big. But that's why I think not only us, Martin RPI commented, a bunch of media members from around the state commented that was the best game of the tournament, and that was the best attended game as well. And the people that bought tickets to get there, that was money well spent.
Yes, I mean, it was, you take a look, I think there were 4 games that were really outstanding games, and this has to be one at the top of the list of the weekend.
And I think at the top of the list in terms of community support, Shelby, like I already gave credit to, they were unbelievable. Monday, they hold the special media session where we get to hear from not just the star players, but everybody, like Joe outlined, all talked about their roles on the team. Wednesday, they do a community meet and greet. Everybody comes down. They get an opportunity to get signatures. And then Friday, the team send-off.
Phenomenal.
We got
Great.
so many comments, just a little video clips that we put out.
It gave me goosebumps.
On our Facebook and our Instagram and stuff. It was unbelievable atmosphere all the way around, and they didn't just stop there, Travis. Nope. Despite this team coming up just a little bit short in the state Final Four, yesterday when the team came back from Dayton, the community was there to welcome them home with open arms.
Finished with a school record of 24 wins on their way to an undefeated 14-0 Mid-Ohio Athletic Conference title. They defeated Vermilion to capture the sectional title, Mansfield Senior and Lexington to win the district title, Lima Shawnee and Lutheran West to seize the regional title, and finally put up a valiant effort yesterday in the OHSA Division II state semifinal. So it was a great year, guys.
The one thing that really resonates with us is just being thankful. It's our last core value. It's something that we talk about all the time. And like when I just think about this week and this whole postseason run, this whole season, that's the word that comes to mind the most. We just are extremely thankful. Again, it's our core value. It's something that we talk about all the time. and we appreciate all the support that you've given us this year.
Thank you for the ride. It really was enjoyable. See, I'm the emotional one, not gonna lie. But it was something all season, so thank you guys for this. This morning at breakfast, I was sitting next to some old timers who saw my pullover, and they told me, we've been coming to the state finals for a long time, and that was the best game we've ever seen. And then they added, that is what every game should look like. Thank you to the players and coaches of the 23-24 Shelby Whippets basketball team. Congratulations on a very successful season. Thank you.
Almost brings a little tear to your eye just watching that. Just how galvanizing sports can be for a community, and just how well attended everything was all week long for the Shelby Whippets. So we don't just want to salute the team. We want to salute Whippet Nation from top to bottom. Great efforts all the way around. Couldn't be more pleased with what we've seen. Everybody's been so nice, and I love the stories that you heard there from the superintendent, and many others approached me this weekend too and just said, what an awesome team, great group of guys, but an unbelievable game too. I think definitely the best of the 12 that we saw this last weekend.
Yeah, despite the loss, they laid it all out on the line. They left nothing in the tank after that game, and yeah, we are absolutely proud of that team. What a run. Thankful that they allowed us to come, and they weren't just playing for their town, their city, are also playing for the late Chuck Ridnour, who covered Shelby athletics for years and years for the Shelby Daily Globe. Tragically passed away last year. They played for him, but another cool moment, halftime of the D2 championship game, he was inducted into the Ohio Prep Writers Sports Hall of Fame, which was awesome. It could have been a little bit cooler if Shelby was in the championship game for the whole community to applaud that, but a great moment also for the Ridnour family being able to, see Chuck put into the Hall of Fame, and Shelby, I know they played for him as well this year.
They did indeed, and over the last week, I've been compiling a lot of footage, as has Travis with me, Jory Hollenbeck as well, who was there at the community welcome. So what we're putting together, Madeline's called it, it's going to be a movie at this point.
Pretty
I
much.
thought it was just going to be like a little mini doc, but I've got so much stuff, it's going to be a movie.
I didn't have as much from the Loudonville stuff for their Final Four, and it was 25 minutes long. You have at least 3 times as much, so 45 minutes to an hour. Might have to get Netflix deal or something.
Working on it.
Put it up for an award or something. You never know, but we got a lot of cool footage out of that. The parade, leaving the school, the stuff in the school, all those kids, all those little kids with the signs. That was one of the best moments, I think, leading up to the tournament.
So I don't know how long it's going to take me to get that all together, but we'll just say a hashtag coming soon, the Shelby movie. We'll see when it hits. All right, guys, let's get into the state championship action games, because even though we didn't get great contests in terms of the final score, obviously these are the best teams. The cream typically rises to the crop, and we'll begin at the smaller school division in Division 4, where Berlin Highlands somehow, some way, farming community, a lot of Amish out there, that they seem to find a way onto the hardwood at states year after year after year. They make it again, having to overcome a lot of injuries and different things to get back there, and then taking on Richmond Heights, not just the one time, but the 2-time defending state champions that we knew were absolutely loaded, guys. So, Joe, your thoughts on this matchup, because it was pretty cool. I think just those two teams in general facing off.
Well, first of all, Berlin Highland has one of the best coaches in the state of Ohio in Mark Slayball. He's had great success when he started his career at Loudonville, and then went home to Berlin Highland, and it's just it just every year he does it. And if you take a look, at their schedule that they played in the state tournament program, they challenged themselves. They played Duluth underneath. They played Dover. So out of his league, he tries to put these kids in situations that they're going to face teams not to the caliber of Richmond Heights, but you give them credit. I mean, making it to the state tournament 4 consecutive years in a row from a community like that says a lot about the time and effort that his staff, and then probably more importantly, that he's established the players understand what they need to do to be able to get there. But they ran into a team that's not just the best in Division IV. They might be the best team again this year in the state. They surely probably were a year ago, and pretty much returned everybody. I mean, they have D1 guys all through the roster, and nothing against Berlin Highland. They probably don't have one D1 guy on their roster.
Highland did score the first 5 points of the game, and you're
Yes.
thinking, okay, baby. After that would actually be their longest scoring run of the game, unfortunately. Richland Heights 12-2 spurt ends the first, and then they just kind of rolled from there. That they held the Hawks 17 points over the next 2 3 quarters. And to Joe's point, I mean, this Spartans team, again, is going to be loaded. They only graduate 2 seniors, and they're going to have pretty much everybody back again.
Their best player wasn't able to play the second half of the season. He was on the bench. He was talking to Tom Izzo after their game as well, but they have him coming back too for his senior year. We were talking, their backups were dunking on Highland at the end of the game.
Yep.
Like, this team, they're set up for whatever they are. And I was reading through Twitter today, Brian, and a bunch of the folks saying, well, these kids, they're recruited or whatever, they're in here. You don't, I mean, Richmond Heights didn't do anything illegal. Don't go down on those kids, anything like that. They're just a really talented basketball team. They're coached really well as well, and they're, I wouldn't say taking advantage of what's going on, but they're just playing basketball. So you shouldn't go out there and talk bad on the kids or the coaching staff. They're just playing basketball, and they're just dominating. And I think they could win any of the divisions this season.
Yeah, you're looking at the highlights right now. I mean, these dudes, everybody on the floor, I think even the point guard, they can't only just dunk, they can do show-stopping dunks.
Well, the other amazing thing, you look at not just Richmond Heights, but the overall tournament, the number of players that can shoot the basketball. Mm-hmm. And I think, we were talking about this kind of in a group, maybe it was on Saturday, but the effect like that Steph Curry's had on the game of basketball, the importance of shooting. I mean, you saw guys not just shooting it from the high school 3-point line, but shooting it a step and a half.
Alex Bob.
Behind the college 3-point line. And that the hard things with Richmond Heights that they possess is, if you try to slow the game down on them, they're so good defensively in the half court that you have a difficult time scoring. I mean, I believe in the, was that the, I'm getting them all confused, but was that the game that started like with 5 block shots or not?
The D4 final?
Yeah, yes. Or it might have been it might have been the semifinal game.
I think it was the
with
it was
Richmond
the Richmond
Heights.
Heights-Russia game.
Yes, that's what it was. Richmond
Yes.
Heights-Russia game. Like Russia's first 5 shots were block shots.
Yeah.
And so with Richmond Heights, you almost have to try to play to get into transition, because that's really the only time you might get an open look, and then that's the way they want to play also. So, kudos again to Berlin Highland to get there, but also kudos to Richmond Heights, as you said. You play in the tournament as it's designed, and
Yeah.
and they're doing their job.
Yeah, they're not doing anything illegal. They're playing by the rules. They're playing by the You know, they have, I don't know how many players they have on there, how many boys in the school, but according to the OHSA, they're a Division IV school. They wanted to be tested during the regular season. They could play anybody that they want, but then once you get to tournament time, you play the teams that you're supposed to play. And they have completely dominated them. And also give credit to Berlin Highland. They had, I think, two of their best players have been injured before the tournament run, and yet they still made it to the Final Four. So you got to think, if they had those two guys, would it be a difference? I think the game would have been a little bit closer than the 27-point route, but we had this discussion too. I don't think they win it, but you never know. You never know with those two guys, but Richmond Heights, far and beyond the best team out there on the court.
The semifinal matchups were better, obviously. The Rusey game
that was
with
the
Richmond
championship
Heights,
game.
That felt like there were just big-time athletes out on the floor going head-to-head, and that one was the tightest game that the Spartans played against a D4 opponent the entire season, and then double overtime for Berlin Highland to survive LCC just to get to that point. But typically the best team will usually win on any given day, and after a slow start, you saw what happened for the Spartans, and they missed a lot of easy shots at the rim, started getting it going in the third quarter. But you look at, they got Dorian Jones, the Eric Barber, Demaris Winters, and then TJ Crumble, who you mentioned, who was talking to Izzo, all coming back next season.
Yep.
And then a couple of kids off the bench whose names that we don't even really know of just yet.
But
they were coming in, knocking down threes, having show-stopping dunks at the end of the game. So they're going to be the favorite, whatever division they're in. And it could even be Division I, too, Joe, if they decide that they want to test themselves.
Well, the referendum's got to pass first, so that's the other part.
Well, pull some strings, Joe. You know, we want to see them up there. But, yeah, unbelievable team, and congratulations to Richmond Heights winning their third straight state championship. I forget that there's not very many teams in the history of the state that have done that. Maybe 4?
I think it's the second in D4 history. And that you had to go back a while. I saw a tweet about that yesterday. But I think that's the second in history in D4 that we had a three-peat.
It says that Richmond Heights joins Cincinnati North College Hill 2005-7, Columbus Worley 1988 to 90, and then Dayton Stivers 1928 to 1930.
How about that?
I don't even know
as
that
the only
school
schools in
because
Ohio
everybody else.
history to win
That's
3 state titles.
Joe knows.
Not easy to do.
Joe knows.
So, well, Joe knows just because
Joe reads.
he's got a script in front of him. That's why he knows. But yeah, pretty amazing, But going back to Highland, they've played in 14 state tournaments, which is tied for the 5th most in state history. Also, so Berlin Highland is no stranger to.
Oh, what a
And
program.
most of those names we saw on the baseball diamond as well. And that was the thing. If Russia would have won, that would have been a rematch of last year's D4 state baseball championship, and both teams had a lot of players from those teams on there.
Was it last year or 2 years ago?
It was last year, I believe, because Calvert, that controversial call Highland Calvert in the state semifinal.
But did Rishi win? I think Rishi won the baseball the year before then, didn't
Yes,
they?
yes. And then Highland got
So
them
they were back
last
in
year.
the finals again last year. Wow.
Yeah, loaded with athletes at those schools right now.
Well,
it seems like every year.
But Rishi doesn't have a lot to choose from. They only have like 40 boys, I think, or something.
Isn't that crazy?
Just for them back-to-back years doing what they did. That's hats off to them, too.
For sure. All right, we give you a little teaser there. Showed you a little clip of the Division III game, which was this was a very competitive game for most of it. The Lutheran East looking for back-to-back titles in Division III. They were taking on a Harvest Prep team that had to win a really tough semifinal game to get into the championship. And thanks to, a big performance from that gentleman, Jesse McCullough, 12-8. Dude was super efficient from the floor. They were indeed able to pull out a tight game in the second half. Lutheran East, congratulations to them for winning 2 titles in a row. And this is a team very physical in the paint. They had a nice mixture, pretty deep team of good shooting. And then that dude in the lane, when you're going up against 6'10", there's not too many monsters like that lurking anywhere in the state, Joe. So Jesse McCullough is a little bit different style of athlete, and he was pretty much unguardable in the Final Four.
Yeah, I mean, outstanding player, and you can see why. I mean, going to Michigan State and Tom Izzo in the house to see him play. Lutheran East, again, I think this is, I believe, set their 7th straight consecutive state tournament.
Crazy.
And
that's a state record.
Back-to-back state championships, but 3rd in the last 4 years. And I think they said they've won won 5 state titles, which is they're the only 7th team in history of the state to do that. So again, a program that, for the past decade is, they're in the Final Four. But when you have a player like the young gentleman going to Michigan State, and you lost one of your best players and still come back, says a lot about your basketball team.
Yeah, the 3rd championship for McCullough. He was a starter as a freshman as well, and not a lot of guys can say that.
Yeah.
They've been a part of that. And I did see a fun stat in Division III. Colin White joins LeBron James as the only 2 players to be starters on 4 straight Final Four teams.
Yep.
I thought that was a pretty awesome accolade.
Yeah, and we were talking about the state championship game, but the semifinal game
Another phenomenal
outstanding.
game.
was
Yes.
that was a phenomenal game. Harvest Prepton, OG, and again, we talked about the performance of Alec Rushgotter. Colin White was
Mr.
right
Basketball.
there with him with the performance that he had. A chance to win it at the end. Just the play didn't quite work right, but I think they were down 11, I believe, maybe in the 4th.
Yeah.
And came back and almost put the game into overtime. But a sensational player. We know a lot about Alex Rushgotter as far as what kind of a young man he is, and everything you hear about Colin White is he's just the same. Great, not only a great player but a great person. Will be a great addition to the new coach at Ohio State, Jake Diebler,
Who was in the
and that
house
team.
Yes, he
yesterday.
was.
Yeah.
Him and his brother.
So, kudos to Colin White.
He was one of my favorite players that we got an opportunity to cover over the last couple of weeks, and you're absolutely right. Just in terms of being a good kid, on Saturday night, very late, he comes out of the media room, the entire team, coach is waiting for, all right, it's time to go. And I was like, Colin, if you don't mind, we'd like to get you on OH.Report just for a quick word here. He sets down all his stuff. He's like, I would be happy to, and came over. And I think maybe it's because the goodie bag that we were giving away, we had some yummies in there. But great interview. You can tell the kid is no stranger to the camera and the microphone. And looking forward to seeing what he does for the Buckeyes, because he's got one of those bodies, kind of, Bruscotter's more like Gumby limbs. Colin White can probably put on 50 more pounds. He's just got that kind of frame.
I don't know if he want to put on 50
Maybe
more
not
pounds,
that
but he's
much.
going to get a lot stronger.
For sure.
And people have asked me, and I'm not any kind of expert. They said, I've had people say, well, I don't think he can play at Ohio State. And, but my thing is, I said, he's not going to have to do all the things at Ohio State that he does for Ottawa Glandorf. Yeah. He's not going to, he can handle the ball, but he's not going to have to handle it a lot. He's 6'6". You saw his athleticism on a larger variety of plays. And he's, a lot of times when you have those Ohio natives, like, for example, an Aaron Kraft, a John Diebler, that university embraces them. And then it becomes really kind of a neat thing to see. So, hopefully Buckeyes play again tomorrow night. Hopefully they get another win and kind of continue that trend to build for next season. But, you hope he's going to be a special player for the Buckeyes.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Just being an Ohio kid, if there's something that is close to a household name for a high school kid right now in the state, I think it's this dude right here.
Yeah.
You ask about Colin White around, not just our region, but anywhere around, they know about him because he's been making plays like that for a long time. 4 years. 4-year starter, over 2,000 points. Did that in the state semifinal game, which I thought was pretty cool. And, yeah, looking forward to seeing this guy on the next stage. Can't play for the Buckeyes. Come on, man.
And you talk about a fan base, Ottawa Glandorf.
Yeah.
They probably have the best fan base in the state of Ohio. As far as travel. We saw it last weekend when the girls were playing at 2 o'clock championship game. I think they had two pep buses that loaded up after that game and drove right to BG for the regional final at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, we talked about Maysville and Shelby bringing fans. OG,
Yeah.
That's just.
Well, they sold out BG Arena in the game against.
I saw the moving pictures from
You're looking
down
at
at
it
UV
right
Arena. Yeah, right there. But
Yeah.
we have a lot. Like I said, those small town high school basketball teams, those public schools, especially, just that pride, that city pride that they bring, that town pride that people get invested in. And it reminds me of my favorite movie, Hoosiers. Like they're following the bus down the road to their next, their next opponent, things like that. That's OG, that's Maysville, that's Shelby. That's some of these other teams, and that's what makes basketball in Ohio great. I mean, you get Indiana basketball, you got some of the other states, but in Ohio, it's special too.
Yeah, you mentioned Maysville. Great community, awesome fan base, and they put up a really good fight against Kettering-Alter in the Division II state championship game after upsetting the number 2 team in Shelby, a prediction that I don't think very many people made. Saw the poll on Martin RPI, the final 4 teams. Shelby overwhelmingly
Perfect
the favorite to win.
It was a perfect storm.
Alter, number 2. Maysville, way down the list. I think about, 6-7% of people gave them a chance to get to the state championship game and win it. They did not care. The Panthers made this a ball game thanks to some big-time shots. Alex Bob, again, Gator, making plays early on in the game. And this was really, really tight. I mean, it was a 3-point game late into the third. But then the Knights started pulling away. Travis, I believe they had a 13-0 run at the end of the third.
Yep.
And then they kind of packaged that with more big plays at the start of the fourth quarter. And Gator and the boys, they still started making shots. I think they trimmed down to 8. They at least put a little pressure on them. But you just can't overcome that kind of shooting that Alter has, and from a variety of different guys.
Yeah. Go ahead, Joe.
And in Maysville, I believe, had 14 made threes in that state championship game, which is a record. And then not just like Kettering-Alter, I think they had 8, so 22.
Yep.
22 made threes in a state championship game.
Another record.
Another record, yes. And it wasn't like all those were wide open either. I mean, some of them were really contested threes. But as I said, Maysville, they play with no fear. They have no fear at the defensive end. They're going to get into you. They're going to bump you. They're going to ride you up the floor. And at the offensive end, they just play. They have a flow, and their coach kind of turns them loose, and they're not afraid to shoot a shot from 3 steps behind the 3-point line. And in this run, they made a lot of those shots.
That they did. Not a lot of half-court sets in that Maysville offense. Like you said, flow, I think, is the proper term. They're just kind of moving around, trying to drive in, kick out, get some open threes, and make no question about it. During the regular season, they shot more threes than 2s this year, Joe. You talked about the evolution of the game. I think this team really personifies modern-day basketball with the 3-and-D.
May I comment on something, though, about comments that were said?
Yes, Travis.
Alter 18 of 21 from the free throw line.
Pretty good.
Maysville 0 of 0.
No shots.
Why weren't these fouls called? They weren't driving to the hoop though. This is a team, like we said, that shot 36 threes in this game. They didn't really give a chance to take it to the hole to draw those fouls. They did get fouled a few times in that game, but let's see how many fouls it was. They were fouled 5 times, and I think 4 of those times was in like the second quarter. But that's only because they were running those quick sets. They were shooting a 3. They didn't give themselves a chance to get fouled. And in a state championship game, the refs aren't trying to get themselves involved in the game by calling a lot of fouls. They let you play in a state Final Four and a state championship game. And that's one of the reasons why they were 0 of 0 from the free throw line. And with Archbishop Alter's height and their length, they went to the hole a lot. They got fouled a lot. And they went 18 of 21 from the line. They played their game. And a 21-10 third quarter, which they got fouled a lot and went to the line a lot. That's the difference right there. They played their game.
Oh, yeah, I stood on the corner of the court when Alter was coming in for the first time, and I was just like, yep, you're 5 inches taller than me, you're 6 inches taller than me, you two. I mean, it was just length for days.
Well, here's an interesting stat. Kettering-Alter stat. Joe Petroselli, coached 50 years at Kettering-Alter. I had a friend of mine told me that when he finished his career, he went back through his rosters. So you got 12 guys every year on his roster. And the average height of his team on all those rosters in 50 years was 6'3".
Wow.
So think of that. 6'3", and if you take a look at all those players that Alter had, they're all like 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", and then they're long. They're athletic. They're strong. There must be something in the water at Kettering-Alter that you drink to have
Dayton water down there.
That size over that period of time. But they were fun. They were a fun team to watch too. They played kind of played, as we mentioned. I guess the word is flow. They had a flow to what they did, and they kind of mixed in some things. Some sets But they really had 5 guys that could score, and I think, that showed the balance they had both in the semifinal and the final.
And I mean, they were really tired after their long drive they had from their school to the. It was like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But
They got
also
to sleep in their own bed.
Oh, yeah.
That's a
they
big
had
key.
one of the I guess I wouldn't say stinkers, but one of the lesser games of the semifinals because they had a running clock in that first semifinal game. But that's how good they were.
Yeah.
And it showed Shelby and Maysville fans that we get to the championship game, we're going to have ourselves a
Buckle
test.
up, baby.
And it's kind of one of those nights. I mean, you feel bad for Ursuline because it was kind of, I think I mentioned
start.
this. It was Ursuline just they probably played one of their worst games of the year, and Alder played one of their better games of the year. And when you get to this level, you put that combination together in a tournament, you're going to get a game like that. But again, you can't really sometimes just judge a team on one game in the state tournament because sometimes you just play poorly, and when somebody plays well, it makes you look really bad, and that's what Alder did to Ursuline.
Yeah, don't put down any of these teams. You made a Final Four for a reason, but you're allowed to have off nights. I mean, look back at Loudonville girls, shot 17% in the first half, but they were one of the best teams in Division 7. Division 7, that's next year. Division 4, it's just.
And Alder
sometimes
has a familiarity with playing in UD. They might have played a couple games in UD.
It wasn't the
this
regional.
year.
There was a regional.
There could have been. I don't know, but I mean, like Coach Petroselli, I think he's played. He coached more games in UD than maybe except one coach in UD basketball history as a high school coach. So they played there a lot, and those kids are familiar with that arena.
So kudos to Alter winning their first state championship since 2001. I think that was just their second one overall, right? Is that right? Or if they won more?
Yes, yeah. 2001 was their first, I believe.
So I think they've won.
They won
they've
3
won a
or
handful.
4th. They're 4th or
fourth.
first in so
That's the Division 1 team that we're about to get to.
Yeah.
Same year though.
Very much like Alter, St. Ignatius, they've been on the doorstep here. They've been knocking. I think they've been to the Final Four 3 of the last 4 years. Haven't been able to break through to a state championship game until this season for the first time in 23 years. And this was a team that had to pull off an unbelievable comeback to knock off Delaware Hayes in, a top 3 game, I think, in the entire tournament. That one was super fun. You want to talk about atmosphere?
Oh, yeah.
I really liked what we got from Shelby versus Maysville. I think that was the most, bitter in terms of both fan bases, going at one another.
Just look at the end of my highlight.
Oh, brother. That was some good time. So, yeah, check that out right now on all of our platforms if you want to see a great game, awesome action, and then a little bit of playing it up for the crowd at the end.
That was for the
Ignatius
Hayes crowd,
versus
too. That
Hayes.
wasn't the Ignatius crowd they were coming for. That was the Hayes crowd. And it was, that was momentum. But also, shout out for the championship game, the media crew from St. Ignatius, 5 students going every single game with St. Ignatius, getting a chance to call a semifinal and a state championship game. Those kids were in it. And I'd shout them out. I was kind of rooting for Centerville because, AJ Hawks from Centerville and all that stuff, and they were so close the last couple of years. But then I saw those kids. I saw the fan bus, the amount of fans they had that came down from St. Ignatius, and it kind of turned my head. It's starting to root for St. Ignatius and what they had with one of their best players out as well for the tournament.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting storyline that we did not know of, not covering the Cleveland area, but during the districts, evidently their best scorer goes down. He was getting wheeled around. He had his knee on a little pushy cart. So without that, still able to survive a Centerville team. This is their 4th straight trip to Final Four, isn't it, Joe? They've had a nice run, but no Gabe Cups this go around, and they didn't really have a guy that stepped up until it was too late. Towards the end of the game, they started getting some better playmakers doing some things, but it just felt like this was St. Ignatius's night, and they ended up winning that championship in this one with a team that I didn't really feel like they had a weakness. Excellent guard play. I really love their 2 starters in the backcourt, and then the big kid in the middle, 6'8". They had a couple other wings, 6'6", 6'6". So this is a squad, as you would say. I know Cleveland.com had them ranked number 1. Max Preps has them in the top 50 in the entire country. So really solid team.
Yeah, and they even played Richmond Heights. Kind of tough there. They played Centerville in the regular season to double
Classic.
overtime. Lost
in
by
the
2 to
90s, right?
Centerville. Yeah, it
That
was in the
game was.
98-96, I think, was the
Yeah, I think
final,
that's
so they
what
were
it
ready.
was.
But battle-tested, they took on some of the best teams. Like I said, they lost to Richmond Heights early on, playing those Cleveland schools as well. But props to them. They shot the ball pretty well as well. 7 of 15 from 3. Michael Lamoran, 3 of 3 from 3, 3 of 4 from the field. They just had multiple scorers. They had 4 scorers in double figures, 2 more with over 8 points. You couldn't just guard one player, and that's
Well,
what
I
helps
think
out.
that's kind of what, if you take a look at the state tournament, the teams that are successful are teams that have more than, usually more than one guy, and even more than 2. Usually you're able to put 4, and if you're able to put 5 guys on the court that can score, it makes it really difficult for teams to defend you. And I think if you go back and you kind of look at these teams that were in the finals or in the state champions, they had that balance. And balance many times is a key to the success that a team can have, and that kind of proved out in this state tournament again.
And for Iggy, too, they had 3 charter buses that brought down their student section. And no disrespect to the ladies, but there's a lot of testosterone running through that fan base over there. Yeah. And I think it made a difference. There was a lot of crazy bro talk going on over there. They were in unison with a lot of their cheers. And I really think that if I was going to give an award to the best student section, it's packed from end to end. That was the biggest, most filled up one. And they had a lot of specialized chants that I'm not familiar with. So that they brought it for their Wildcats.
Yeah, and at the end of the game, the coolest thing after they got their trophy, they did the Lambeau Leap. They went right over to the student section, jumped into there. They sang the alma mater, everything. Before even cutting down the nets, before even thinking about themselves doing that stuff, they went right to the student section. And that was pretty cool. That was a pretty cool moment as well.
Well, and that's usually a pretty tough region to get out of, because you're usually facing a St. Ed's or, Garfield Heights, some of those teams up there that have, as we saw in the state tournament, outstanding players. But again, you go back to that St. Ignatius, the balance that they had was a big difference. And then I think you mentioned the other part, basketball's a game's a run, and the run they had in the third, you could maybe sometimes survive a 5-0, 6-0 run, but when they had that 13-0 run, Centerville it was too much for them to get back into the basketball game.
It was what I think tied. Ignatius scores the last 9 points of the first half, and then they had a run at the beginning of the third as well.
It
just
Centerville comes out
15-8,
and had a really good start. I think they had the stop score that we talked about.
They did indeed.
And
actually,
then
Brian mentioned that before it happened.
But then it was kind of, I think maybe St. Ignatius took a timeout, or it might have been even the media timeout at the 4-minute mark, and then they dominated the end of the third quarter.
Yes, they did.
Centerville kind of hung in there, kind of close, but then St. Ignatius just made some easy plays when Centerville had to kind of get out of their element and try to press them. And St. Ignatius did a good job of attacking the basket and making layups and then making free throws down the stretch also.
And then, Centerville did get it down to, I believe, like 8 or 7 points. But again, Ignatius answered, hit a 3, hit some free throws, and then pulled away. So it was, I would say it was the best of the 4 championship games, even though it wasn't much of a game after that first half. But I think it was because everybody's worn out from those semifinal games that were great.
I think the thing is that made it intriguing was Centerville had the firepower that they could kind of get there, and like you said, they got it to 8, and you were like, hey man, if they can get this next stop and get a basket, this is going to really change the momentum.
Yep.
And St. Ignatius really never let that happen.
And Centerville, another one of those communities. They had 12-minute drive to get over to UD Arena. So,
but the other part of it was, though, somebody made me aware of this, is I think there were schools on spring break, so a lot of students left, and then might have been Centerville also, like they have a senior trip, and a lot of the seniors weren't even there because I don't know if they do a school senior trip.
Joe,
they were
this is a team that's been there 3 years in a row.
I know.
Like, you got to start making that the expectation.
I know.
I just don't get it.
But if you take a look, I think they had 9 regular season losses, if I'm correct. So you give their coaching staff kudos to find a way to get there, because you wouldn't expect. They were probably the.
This wasn't a Lutheran. This wasn't a Richmond Heights 9 losses
right.
either.
Yes. So,
Yeah,
So
They had one of the biggest upsets of the tournament. I know Cincinnati Moeller was number one.
And Moeller
And
had beaten
overtime,
them
70-69.
And
Needed
Moeller had
overtime.
beaten them twice. So I mean, that's kind of been the, well, Centerville's been there 4 years in a row, so I'm not sure how many years they've knocked Moeller out, but Moeller was kind of the team that always came out of that Southwest district or Southwest regional. So I'm sure that's become quite the rivalry.
Well, we're trying to start new rivalries now, Joe. So first, let's applaud all the state champions and the winners.
Yeah.
Not
Bravo.
easy to do that. You want to talk about, at the minimum, you got to win 7 games in a row in a winner-go-home situation. 8 for a lot of these teams that compete in the sectional semifinals. So big salute to all the 4 state champions and everybody that made it down to the state Final Four just to be a regional champ. Joe Baylog knows how challenging it can be. You can coach for a long, long time and only do it just a little bit. But of these 4 champs, we got to see them all on the stage for at least 2 games each. We saw how dominant they all were in the championship games. Let's say that I can put together a little 4-team bracket. We've got the winners of D1, D2, D3, and D4. If you had to make a betting odds favorite in Vegas, Joe Baylog, which team do you think had the best collection of talent that you would anticipate would come out on top?
Well, you would probably have to go with Richmond Heights. I mean,
Not a bad pick.
you know, with what they did a year ago, and then they come back, and they even amped up their schedule. You know, you mentioned they had 9 losses, but you look who those 9 losses are to.
IMG Academy in Florida, the number 1 team in the country.
And probably if you take a look at, I mean, we don't have any kind of player rankings here, but if you take a look at the rankings of the players that they have on the roster, you know, they're probably, as far as the so-called college talent, they're probably heads and tails about it, every team that, of all 3 other
That's the
teams.
truth.
Now, the other part though of it is you take some of those teams like you know, Kettering Alder or St. Ignatius, how they play together, you know, that could somewhat equalize that talent, because those programs know how to win also. Sure. But if you're going by I guess the past 2 seasons and you're looking at the talent that Richmond Heights puts on the floor, you would probably say Richmond Heights is the odds-on favorite to win that 4-team tournament.
Real quick, Joe, you talked about the teams that they played. This is just the first 3 weeks of the season. You ready for the schedule? This is the games in order. Reynoldsburg, Newport, St. Joe's Prep, Pick Central, IMG Academy on the road, and that's just to start the season. Yeah. All D1s, and then the number 1 team in the nation, just to get a little test. And Coach got asked, too, after the championship, like, you know, maybe you'll be able to move up in the future for the next tournament. And I believe his answer was, we'll play the teams that will get us prepared for the tournament during the regular season. So, bravo. Good answer, not giving away too much. Yeah. But I think you got to be right, Joe, because I've seen this team the last 2 years at the regional level and now getting to see them compete on the state level. They're only graduating Jeremy Wilson and Jose Still Jr. So you get the sharpshooters. I am so impressed watching Dorian Jones and then Winters Jr., how quickly they get off their shots, and there's no hesitation. And they've got a point guard for 3 years in a row. He's led the greater Cleveland area in assists. He's going to be back, too. Yep. Over 8 assists per game, 3 years straight. That's pretty crazy. And now that they're going to have TJ Crumble, some of the kids off of the bench, I think they probably do win this fictitious 4-way tournament with the champions.
I'd have Richmond Heights, Lutheran East play for the title, but, you know, Richmond Heights just has too many guns in their arsenal against McCulloch, and, yeah, easily Richmond Heights wins that one. Like I said, only 1 team, Rushi, in that tournament played with them. Every other game was 27 points or more. Now it's 27 points was the championship game against Highland. Everything else was a blowout. They are that good. They are, I'm giving it to them now, the best team in the state of Ohio. And next year, they could be up for it once again.
So there you have it, folks. The smallest school division with the most talented team, they get it done again 3 years in a row. So congratulations to Richmond Heights. But basketball's over now, guys. So I mean, I don't know what we start doing with our dime, Joe. That's right. That's right. We still got the March Madness going on.
There's some
That's been a
good
fun
games.
tournament. Boy, but what a contrast. The first 2 days, all the upsets that we had, if you would have just bet on the underdogs, you probably would have made a sizable amount of money. And then you look at the next 2 days when they get into the round of 32, I think there was only one team that wasn't favored who ended up winning. So it was interesting to see that dynamic.
Well, but some of the difference though is your preparation time. So if from a coaching standpoint, you have 4, maybe 5 days to prepare for that first round game. Now you win, you have 1 day to prepare for a really good basketball team, and I think that's many times why you see those upsets in those the first round games, is because coaches can do such a good job preparing and getting their team, because you have so much practice time. Now when you win, you're going to face another really good basketball team, and that preparation time is really, really short, and it makes it difficult. Somewhat the same. That'll be kind of what'll be interesting next year with the state tournaments, boys and girls. Is I'm not sure exactly how this is going to work, but you're kind of throwing around the idea, like if let's say Division 2, 4, and 6 are going to play on Friday, their state semi-finals would be on like Tuesday. So you went on Tuesday. Now you have Wednesday and Thursday, 2 full days to prepare for the state finals, where like typically now, the only teams that can get an extra day to prepare, the Division 4s that won on Thursday. Everybody else plays I guess the Division 4s and 3s that played on Thursday, but the teams that play on Friday, you're turning right around and playing, that played on Saturday. I got the days mixed up. You're turning right around with not even a full day prep to play. So that'll be interesting to see maybe how that plays into the state finals next year with 7 divisions.
Joe, do you have a favorite right now in March Madness? Who's your pick? Are you filling out brackets?
I think I picked Purdue to win it all.
Edie.
They're motivated this year.
Some of that was out of my heart, just from the standpoint I really like Matt Painter. You kind of feel for what's happened to him in the tournament, and knowing that he's a really good player. He's a really good coach. Zach Edey's a really good player. Would like to see them win it.
UNC or nobody.
I have Carolina winning it.
But Blue's gonna
Purdue has been steamrolling teams so far in the tournament. So, I mean, Zach Edey is playing lights out right now, and they're probably one of the favorites right now.
They probably could have beat Utah State by 60 if they would have left all their starters in the whole time.
Yeah, but I got Carolina winning it all as well.
You seem sad about it. I got a big smile when I say that. Remember when I said high school basketball was over?
Right, for
maybe it's not.
Non-all-star.
Let's do this. Let's check out some all-star activity coming up on Thursday. That's right. We've got the Spy Report. We've got both the underclass and the senior showcase. That goes down at Cedar Point. Really cool venue, I think, for these activities, and we will be bringing you, hopefully, live and free coverage from up there. We're definitely going to be in the building. They're a little limited on cash, I guess. They don't have the best of Wi-Fi up at Cedar Point, but
gotta pay for those roller coasters.
Great basketball is going to be played. We've been a part of this at least the last 2 seasons in a row, and it's got a lot of local flavor, a lot of Northwest Ohio kids as well, all sprinkled together. So always a big night of fun.
Yeah. I'll be on the call of that one, but seeing like not only the last time for some of these seniors to play, but seeing what the future holds for some of these all-stars, giving you a little idea of what we could be in for next season. It's going to be a fun time, but that's not the only set of all-star games we're going to have this week, Brian.
That's right, Travis. Coming up on Friday as well, we've got not 1 but 2. We've got bonus basketball for you at the News Journal All-Star Classic, because the kids that never got a chance to lace it up back in 2020, all that pesky COVID just got in the way of all the fun. These guys are coming back, Joe, 4 years later, so they're a little bit bigger, a little bit more seasoned as human beings, and let's see who's staying in shape. It's going to be interesting, but a lot of great talent, and most of the players, I think, of the what do they select, like 24 for this game?
Something like that, yeah.
I think like 18 of them are going to be back.
Yeah, that's going to be fun to watch, and we're going to be able to bring it to you live and free as well. Jake Furr is allowing us to bring you that game live, and for the sake of getting fans in the seats for the game for the seniors this year, we're going to do a delayed, because we want you guys to be in attendance. It's a great cause that they're helping out as well.
Joe, you want to come be a part of the action on Friday with us?
I'll have to let you know here.
Okay.
I'm probably I'll have to see, but I'm going to try to get down because Quan Coburn, who's part of our, Ontario squad.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I've seen him since he left town after he graduated, so would like to get down and see him play on Friday.
That'd be sweet. Oh, Mr. Coburn. All right, well, I know for a fact that I'll be in attendance, as will Travis, so maybe Joe, we'll find out. But for tonight's show, that's going to do it for us, folks. So appreciate everybody out there watching and for all the support throughout the high school tournament. This has been far and away the most viewership that we've ever had, the most amount of interaction, and just with you, the people of the community. I can't walk down the street very far without somebody wanting to come up and talk about some type of a game, or mostly it's been the Shelby Whippets, of course, here of late. So I do want to say a big thank you to all the fans of the OH Report and how much you've made me want to show up for my job during this high school tournament run. It's been a ton of fun on my end. 20
highlights over the 6 days of the girls and boys state tournament.
Ooh, mama.
2 streams, audio streams. The Shelby stream, though, we had, I think, a record over 2,000 people watch/listening at one point. That was awesome. That was just all around. The support, the game itself, everything was a really fun experience to be a part of.
That's right. So look out for the Shelby movie dropping sometime here in a theater near you. We might have to do a viewing party over at the Cinemark. We'll find out.
Other people have been able to do that, put together stuff like that, so we could maybe
looking into that.
Good idea.
Until then, I guess just keep a lookout for the debut of Jamma Montana. We're going to have an album probably put together.
It's
I know
the
that
soundtrack to the Shelby movie.
Yes, sir.
See if I get Tay-Tay to come.
Oh, man. See?
For the Shelby viewing, we could see.
Oh, I'm feeling 22 all over again right
boy.
now. But for tonight, guys, we are out of here. We will see you next Monday right here on the podcast. And then, of course, got the basketball going on. Bye for now.